I am Pernapple, and I'm here to ask you a question. Is a game not entitled to its perfect score? No, says the trolls. The game wasn't that good. No, says the non-believers. It was just overhyped. No, says IGN. A perfect score belongs to everyone. I reject those reviews, and I chose something different. I chose... Look...
Okay, hold on. Before you even think of watching this, have you even played the game? Because I can't stress enough how badly everyone should play this game and get their whole world all sorts of turned upside down. I mean, seriously, this is the gaming world's sixth sense, okay? I mean, in terms of wicked sick plot twists, not M. Night Shyamalama Ding Dong's inconsistency with, I don't know, life? Bioshock, for those who are fiends and don't know, is an FPS RPG by 2K Studios led by the mind of Kevin Levine. Ken Levine. Why does your name have to be so complex? And a winner of a bunch of awards that I guess have meaning. Who ran VGX again? Spike? But what made this game so iconic? It's host to one of gaming's most iconic villains, a beloved fictional world, and some of gaming's most memorable lines. Yowza! So, is that why people like this game? Cause made some needle lines you can throw around like it ain't nothing? No, you boombish blueberry. There's so much more at play that many players don't take into account. Small details that go largely unnoticed, but is actually why a game is considered good or perhaps even great. And Bioshock does it from the very beginning. So let's I'm sorry. I love the piano keys for these options. I mean, I like normal keys. That's right. Game time to do game. So, I'm gonna level with you. I sort of built up Halo's tutorial level as a whole neato thing, but that's stupid child's play in comparison to the tutorial level of this game. And I'm gonna tell you why. And if you haven't guessed, it's because Bioshock blows it out of the water. 'Cause it's in the ocean. So here you are, plane crashed and floating the Atlantic. So now what? Tell me what to do, game. Game. I can't think what to do if you don't tell me. I'm just gonna go towards this clear one direction to the one, but I get it. So after a spoopy door closing, we're greeted to this scrumptious face. Who is it? You don't know. But he's heckin' important, that's for sure. And the lighthouse is nice, some soothing music, and if you walk around, you get some great information like art and industry and science. What could it possibly mean? Words sure are hard these days. Wait, that's the face. And he's talking about the words. I get it. The place is the home of the man, and he liked the words. Exposition, ladies and gentlemen. What else does this intro show, huh? What is that thing? Ever get to see it again? I sure hope so. He looks like one heck of a friend. And what are all these lights? Cohen? I'm sure that won't come out of nowhere. Wow, what a neat place. I'm just gonna stay here forever. Hey guys. Hey, you guys dating? Well, that sure took some guts. Alex! Now, all jokes aside, this might be the most crucial part of this intro. Sure, it set the mood by contrasting the clean and tidy inside of the lighthouse compared to the dark and dilapidation of the actual city, but that's not the most important thing. My main bachelor Johnny here is the most important thing you'll ever witness, because he is you. I mean, look at him. He's a mirror image of you, but he also symbolizes the player in their current state, helpless and defenseless. You as the player don't know how to fight in this world. And if you walked out of that bathysphere, you don't get gutted. And more importantly, there is only one splicer. This instills the idea that they don't need to be in a gang to be dangerous. Each individually is a serious threat. So now the player is not only scared of this horrific scene, but they also fear whatever Our Lady Rose here is. Enter Atlas.
I'm Atlas.
The only person willing to help you survive. And my gosh golly, do you need it. After all, you just stumbled upon a secret underwater city which houses mentally unstable denizens. And here's the voice of reason. You need them. So, Rosie O'Donnell has left and you get to begin your adventure. But straight up 10 seconds later, you're about to get filleted by Rosie, and that's just something you do not want, let me tell you right now. And who comes to save you? our new friend Atlas. What a chum, what a pal. He cares for my protection from her lumps. This continues to build your trust and reliance on Atlas to get you through. And you get to start with your first real weapon, a wrench. A measly wrench. And while it is a weapon, you as a player are still highly vulnerable. You still need to get face to face with the threats, but aha! Our new chummy friend has a little treat to tip the scales. Wrong game. Well, that'll take the edge off. Oh god, it's ready. Now, you're still getting used to splicers. In fact, you've only fought one by this time. And hey man, it wasn't easy. But here we have two more. Two! That sure is more than one.
All the cops on me?
We see them checking on your bud, and even though they like what you got, they flee in fear of something more dangerous than themselves. And what are they scared of? I see. So now we know. Don't try towing it with no big daddies. I mean, think how big those toes are. Then there's more tutorial mumbo jumbo, like showing that plasmids have uses outside of combat, and that there are benefits from going off the beaten trail, like finding extra goodies and scary yellow eyes in the walls and spook ghosties. Whee! But hold up, wait a minute. We got another creepy girl. Oh, and is that her dad? I don't think that was her dad. Ah, that's her dad. I'm starting to get it loud and clear. You should really never ever tow or footsie or anything with Mr. B. Alright, you see, now you fear those big adorable lugs. But here's the curveball. Are you ready? It's this. What, you thought it'd be something more interesting? You're wrong! If you play the game, you probably gave this half a second to look at before you looted the corpse, you fiendish tack. But little did you know, it put something in your mind. It showed you that a big daddy can be defeated. I mean, you sure as hell can. All you have is a wrench and a pistol and a measly ability to shoot lightning out of your hands. Get over yourself, Zeus! And this might be a given, right? Why would a player assume it can't be defeated? That's not the point, because in reality, a player is going to try to kill anything that is put in their way. This simply reinforces the idea that it can be done, just not quite yet. Lastly, this level further introduces you to Andrew Ryan, one of gaming's greatest villains and the cartoon industry's biggest inventor. Also Howard Hughes. And Ayn Rand. But hold on. Ryan Andrews was just welcoming me into the city, and as a player, I'm still completely confused on what the crunk is going on. The game started with you dreaming of mom and pa, and all of a sudden you're fighting for dear life in a horrifying dystopia, and now this jag is threatening my lumps! I'm like the most unlucky man in the world.
We know you must feel like the unluckiest man in the world.
You get me, Atlas. You get me. After narrowly escaping Walt Jr., we continue to the medical pavilion, and I'd like to stress why this is important. Yes, everything is important. You see, I'm sure a hospital is a pretty common location for a dystopia or a horror setting, right? I mean, it's like in every game ever, so why is it important in this game? Well, it isn't.
What the fuck?
Not on its own. Yes, the level explains why many of the denizens are disfigured, but its existence serves a greater purpose. Look what levels come next. A fishery, a park, a theater. You see, each of these levels seems fairly common, right? Like, of course there's a fishery. They're on the bottom of the sea. But the game is showing you something. Like how the fumble-fee this place can be. Medical pavilion. Oh, medical help. Neptune's Bounty, their food source. Arcadia, air supply. Fort Frolic, entertainment.
And booty.
Hephaestus, power supply in Ryan's office. Apollo Squares and Olympian Heights, housing. These are all things a society needs to function, and you're not simply told about them, but you're shown them. You get to go through each and every vital organ of the city, and each had ramifications of the Civil War and Rapture. The locations aren't picked because it would be cool to be in an underwater hospital. It's about better understanding the character that is Rapture. And even further, Rapture's a city underwater, right? Don't you find it interesting that the game has nothing to do with that? Like, the game isn't shoving it down our throat like, whoa, look at the underwater. Whoa, is that fish? Well, no, it doesn't. Outside of the leaks and floods, the game doesn't give a flounder about the fact that it's underwater. And that's great, because it lets you forget only for you to remember again. If the game was constantly nagging you to look at the water and see the ugly fish, I wouldn't care, because I don't feel like I'm personally experiencing it. I'd feel like it's telling me what to do. And that's no different if the game was like, and if you look to your right, you'll see a corpse of the bottom-feeding parasites. Isn't that something? Please, no flash photography. I constantly find myself completely forgetting that Rapture is underwater. Not that I wasn't aware of the fact, it's just that I understood that's what the location is. It's following the theme of Andrew Ryan stating,
It was not impossible to build Rapture at the bottom of the sea. It was impossible to build it anywhere else.
A game isn't supposed to be telling the player that they should be amazed at the world that they're presented. It should be presenting the world in a way that amazes the player. These are the things that make Rapture a truly memorable world. And this game came out in 2007. What about the graphics? Well, I'm not gonna lie, they're bad. But hold your twiddly little fingers, you foghorn. Yes, I can look at these graphics and say, yep, that's sure outdated. Outdated, but not unpleasant. This game isn't gonna win the award for any advances in graphical quality, and that's good, because that's a useless award, because this game has something much better. Style.
Let me see.
And style is all that will ever matter. You see, no matter how top of the line new games' graphics are, they will eventually lose the battle of realism because the beauty of video games is it's constantly improving. And that's great, but when a large selling point of your game is that it looks so real, well, sooner or later that doesn't matter, thus making the game forgettable. Bioshock, while maybe not the most stylized game, has a somewhat obscure feeling to it. It's realistic, but not quite there. The portions of the characters are all over the place. The little sisters have massive heads and gigantic eyes, while splicers have small little button eyes and long, lanky, slender bodies. It's just a dash, just a sprinkle, just a spritz of style that goes a long way, because honestly, playing the game, I never had a problem looking at it. It still holds up, in my opinion. And I'm sure at this point you're beginning to question my validity, right? I've been singing this game's praises. Clearly I'm biased. Well, sit down, Sassy. I'm about to file out some flaws. I'll start off with an easy and most obvious problem in the game. The famous, whatever this is. Hacking? This is hacking? No. Hold on. What? I may not be a hacksaw, but if I know one thing, if I fix this turret's flow, it's not gonna be my bro, you know? But in all seriousness, this minigame kills the flow of the game. Because you could be in a big fight, but start hacking and apparently time freezes and you get to make sure the turret doesn't wet itself. And if there's any saving grace, it's how you can simply just buy out the hacking process with money, thus bypassing the stupid minigame altogether. But you still have this menu pop up and say, yeah, and then gives you a gold star for pressing skip. What is this? No, seriously, everything else in this game is quick and fast. Wanna loot that body? Here's what's on him. Take it all? Okay, move on. What's in this chest? Some stuff. Let's take it all. Move on. It doesn't stop the game. It doesn't tell you that you done good. It just lets you keep doing you. And I know the game designers knew what they were doing. The player's instinct is always to take all. There's no worthless loot and you can't be weighed down. There's no reason not to take all, except in a few instances which you can loot 3 alcohols and without hesitation Jack slams them like it's nothing and you're punished with shitty drunken vision and you called your ex, god damn it! So if they knew what they were doing there, why didn't they apply the same logic to hacking? Granted, this was alleviated in the sequel where you just poke it with a probe and beep bop boop, good job, you're a hacking genius. But no, I guess I'll just flip this turret to 20 to look the other way. Like, what? The turret takes bribes now? Letting me down, Levin. Speaking of which, what is the point of money? For a city in economic freefall, money is everywhere. The only reason I'm not more angry about bribing the local safe is that it was the only way I could get rid of all my cash. I was never out of ammo or film, so what else is there to do with it? And you heard me right when I said film. Even if you have played Bioshock, you might have forgotten all about this camera minigame, and it's an interesting idea to research the enemy to get small bonuses against them. However, this game is already chock full of interesting encounters between the splicers, so why does it want to divert the player's attention so they can pull out their camera just to make Jack a peeping Tom? Tom isn't his name! It's another instance of the game slowing down its stellar pacing because while the player may be cautious when encountering splicers, your focus shouldn't be on getting the perfect lighting, and are we just going to ignore the rule of thirds? And most importantly, it breaks the game. It makes any difficulty laughably easy. If the player focuses on researching Houdini splicers, within the second level of the research, you unlock a tonic called Natural Camouflage. This tonic alone completely robs the game of any tension or sense of urgency. The biggest problem is how you can practically obtain it within the first third of the game. It's not hard to get and it makes the game a cakewalk. Why you would walk on cake, however, is a problem you probably have to come to terms with. But the biggest flaw I can think of is one of the staples of the game. How the game determines whether or not you get the good or the sad bad ending. The good ending is only achieved if you save each and every little sister. The other endings occur if the player decides to harvest either one or all the little sisters, giving an identical ending. However, in the bad ending, Tenenbaum gives you a stern scolding. Gamble. So this isn't inherently bad. Seems rational, and it is. However, when you first meet Tenenbaum, her and Atlas debate the pros and cons of harvesting and saving, with it boiling down to if you save the little sisters, you obtain less Adam, but you're also not a dick. And harvesting yields more Adam, however, it makes you a massive dick. This sounds good on paper. This makes the evil path more enticing with more power through plasmids at the cost of your morality. Except it doesn't. Multiple calculations have been done to figure out which route rewards the player with the most Adam. While there is debate on what the correct number is, the results are clear that saving the little sisters gives you about equal, if not more, Adam. The reasoning many have used is the idea that good will be rewarded even in a world of turmoil. Good message. Terrible game mechanic. Maybe I stand alone on this topic, but I don't want to be rewarded for being good. Is that weird? You see, the reward for being a decent human being is that you feel like you did the right thing. Even through adversity and strife, you stuck to your humanity and prevailed. That's the reward.
Good job, you did it, human.
The evil option should always be the easier and more beneficial route. Imagine if the atom amount for being good was slashed to less than half that of the bad route. Now the game becomes harder for those who are choosing to be good, and the longer the game goes on, the harder it gets for them, enticing the player more and more to harvest just one little sister so they can survive. While simply harvesting little sisters may give the player an upper hand through the game, it also reminds them that they're massive pieces of shit. After all, it's part of what the game is about. There needs to be more ramifications for being good in a morally corrupt city, or rewards for simply succumbing to the city's self-preservation ideology. Choice is an important motif of the game, and yet how much do you actually get to choose? The levels are designed for the most part as one giant puzzle with perhaps one or two solutions, but what guides you through these puzzles? Is it your own wit, careful reading, and puzzle-solving prowess? No, you're just a big old dummy, and it's this thing. Love it or hate it, the quest marker tells the player where he needs to go and what he needs to do. Not very RPG-like. Okay, maybe it kind of is. But how interesting, right? The inclusion of this feature would seem to imply that the player is stupid and can't solve problems without it. It's almost like the game's trying to imply the player will blindly follow any orders. I wonder what this could possibly mean. What makes this game so interesting is its ability to use most of the game mechanics and features to better enforce and further the themes within the game. Much like the overall lack of shoving the ocean down our throat, the game also calls out the player for not noticing the plot twist sooner. As I hinted, the quest arrow is your first glimpse that you're not truly in control of what you're doing. Notice that when you crash, there's no quest marker. Nothing is forcing you to go to the lighthouse. It's simply the only choice. But nothing is telling you to go that way. When does the quest marker appear? When Atlas tells you to go somewhere. Sure, that might seem obvious, but it has more implicated undertones. The intro is specifically crafted to give the player just enough information to create a full picture, but leave out the truth. However, it also leaves in a small detail that might give a better idea of what happened. Amidst the screams of horror in the back, you can hear the plane controls requesting to... Now, it could be added in to offer slight information on why the plane crashed, but think about it. Why are we, the passenger Jack, hearing it? A warning that, most likely, would only be heard by the pilots. Furthermore, and perhaps more obvious, is Jack's iconic tattoos. A feature perhaps added to better distinguish the hands to be more interesting to look at, but chains over both wrists? I mean, it's quite an obvious analogy, and yet I'm betting a majority of players didn't give it a second thought. The tattoos have even more meaning when coupled with the economic ideology of Rapture known as the Great Chain, in which each individual has a hand on the chain and decides what direction Rapture will move in. Want even more? How about this poster advertising for a show called Patrick and Moira? Patrick and Moira, are you getting my drift? Seriously, this game litters foreshadowing and it just hints the big plot twist, and it's almost sad you don't see it before it happens. God, it's so fucking amazing! And if you think this game is good just because of its main story, then you're still a big dummy. Yes, the game has one of the best stories in video games. Yes, the atmosphere is tight and the locations are important to furthering the narrative. Yes, the mechanics are integral to the overall game, so what could there possibly be to talk about?
What about them shiny things?
Now this is, for the most part, a completely optional portion to the game. With a few exceptions, the player doesn't need to collect any of them. The player doesn't even need to listen to them, but if you do, it makes the game that much better. I've already said it once and I'll say it again. When the player feels like they have control in what they do and feel like they themselves chose to do something, it becomes that more special to the player. And the audio diaries are just one such way the player can feel like they found something special and unique. Scattered throughout Rapture are diaries left behind the citizens of the city, some giving information on the building it resides in, others offering backstory to the main characters, and a few are completely detached from the main story. The player never interacts with these characters, the relevance in the main plot is practically non-existent. They simply serve as short side stories the player can learn more and more throughout the game, and lastly finding out what becomes of them. So why do I think this is so important? Well, I can't describe the satisfaction one can get from following these characters throughout their audio logs. The game doesn't list any of the corpses with names, so any character that died well before your arrival are simply that. A corpse. But if the player followed their stories, you're struck with a sense of completion as well as a sense of sadness. These are characters that develop from normal members of society driven to bitter ends from the ongoing conflict in Rapture. It's what pushes the game the extra mile.
Nice work, Bio.
So what do you think? Have I sold you on the Bioshock booty? Or perhaps there's something that completely turned you away from the game? I'm interested to hear. Be sure to leave your opinions down in the comments section and perhaps become a Qwerkling and hit that subscribe button. Also, be a chum and check out some of our other videos. I'm 80% sure you won't regret it. Okay, 75, whatever.